Hello everyone, and thank you for coming. Today we're having artist Andrea Galvani and art historian Thomas Frangenberg in conversation. Andrea Galvani was born in Italy. He lives in between Mexico and New York, and he has been exhibiting internationally, including the Whitney Museum in New York, the Moscow Biennale for Contemporary Art, the Mediations Biennale in Poland, the Biennale of Contemporary Art in Nicaragua, the Aperture Foundation in New York, the Calder Foundation in New York, the Mart Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art in Trento, where he will have a solo show in 2016, the Macro Museum in Rome, the GAMEC in Bergamo, and he has also been awarded with numerous prizes, like the New York Exposure Prize, and he was also nominated for the Dutch Boards Photography Prize. Here, BFA in sculptor from the Academy of Fine Arts in Bologna, and he did his Master in Fine Art in Visual Art in Bilbao University in 2002. He has also been a visiting artist at NYU and has completed residencies at Location 1 International Artist Residency Program, New York, the LMCCC Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, and the Artist Space Program in Columbia University School of the Arts. Thomas Frangenberg, he is an art historian and Renaissance art historian, and he has also been writing and curating contemporary art. Thank you.
Okay, I'm delighted to be here to sort of be part of this very informal conversation, and on behalf of all of us, I'd say I welcome Andrea to London, and my first instinct is actually to say we all are probably unfamiliar with this work, which on first inspection is extremely rich and richly layered. And we are all the more happy and honored to have it in London. Now, Andrea, what do you feel about showing your work in London? Is there any particular pertinence of the place for your work? Is there anything that you find pertinent in terms of your practice that it is now shown in London?
First of all, I want to thank everybody to be here. Yes, definitely London is a special place for me to have my first solo show in UK. London, for the long history of connection with the science environment, I thought was perfect to present something that is a reconfiguration of a trilogy of shows that I had in different locations this year, and was actually the perfect occasion for me to start a collaboration with the Imperial College. So what we see on both sides of the space is what remained after a long series of performances that we had with the collaboration of two physicists that were here during the opening and during the gallery week of Freeze. What you see is an interpretation of a series of dialogue about the show. So I definitely think what happened during the preparation and during my stay in London is something that was born in the space of London, with the energy of London, and I'm really happy with the show and what happened. I always think that a show must add something to you as an artist. It's not a question of showing something, it's a question to import new ideas, new experience, and from that side I'm really happy with this show. So thanks to Stefan that is here. Unfortunately, Florence is not with us. I want to say that my experience to jump in your professional and personal life was great. We kind of build something together, and so today is also a celebration of this. Technically, it was not easy, obviously, to coordinate This means you have to study a trajectory. You need an engineer to study where you're going to fly and which is the speed you have to try to have, and is a pioneeristic, crazy collaboration for many reasons. Like obviously you work with the Air Force, and you ask them to do something that for them make no sense, and it's really expensive because they fly in a trajectory you decide. There is no meaning for them. But what I like about this piece is that it's still metaphysical till the end, because you can only do this for a few minutes because the speed of the planet is obviously faster than all the planes available. And so you are there, you freeze this time, and so was born from something really personal. And through that piece, let's say through the moment I was in the process of producing this, trying to find support, money, and people, I actually ran into this piece in the back. So just to make it shorter, something is a long thing. Of course, I got to know when I proposed this to the Air Force. They said, you don't even imagine how much it's going to cost you to fly a plane straight to the sun in a specific time. It's like in terms of like insurance, gasoline, and all of these things. So I started thinking about other things. I just said, okay, if I can have access to the planes, at least I can make another piece. And I started thinking to document other planes in the moment they are training, when they fly together parallel, to document the moment the plane is crossing the sound barrier. And they actually trained daily. They needed to control that, because it's one of the most difficult things to control is when the plane crosses the sound barrier, and they have to do it like 3 or 4 times every flight. Describing this, start explaining that like scientifically. Everything, like how the particle explode, because what you see are just like a particle of water, like the water present in the atmosphere, that in this case is a lot, because we are really close to the sea, so the density is permit you to see this white cone. I was surprised because somebody was describing in a really visual and specific way what was happening there. So even if I'm prepared enough, even if I flew and I document this, I'm still surprised and fascinating by phenomenals, and I still like learning through phenomenals. My intention was from the beginning to document the separation. So let's say for me it was really important to see the separation between sound and silence. That was an obsession, like something actually that is a phenomenon related with the sound and the speed of sound, make itself visible in a completely unexpected and spectacular way.
Yes, something that some of you, being of a younger generation, may not be aware of is the tremendous physical impact of supersonic flight. When it was still permitted to over land, and it no longer is, the sonic impact made your windows shatter, and countless numbers of medieval stained glass windows were broken by supersonic breakthroughs. One of the reasons why it was then banned from overland flight, and it's now admitted over large bodies of water only, for very good reasons, because the physical impact, you felt it in your own body when it happened overhead. When I was in in Cold War Germany, it was a more or less everyday experience, but obviously one doesn't get the visual impact. But a strong emotional impact there is attached to it, and I find your work so very interesting because it always dwells on a human dimension of the experience. You read this as a memento mori on the one hand, and halting the thrust towards death on the other, and you deal here with something that by all conventions might be called superstition, a lucky charm which you load via really elaborate mechanisms. That is about the most expensive way to load a lucky charm with its luck you can imagine. But it makes it a very intriguing object. The balance between superstition and belief systems and an engagement with the scientific base of it all. Does your work reveal something what you think is more generally true about science, perhaps?
Amazing. Thank you for what you're saying. Yeah, I really believe there is a spiritual approach I have in exactly moment I'm trying to document scientific with a scientific approach a phenomena. Even if I don't want, I always see something else. Like in this picture, for example, I don't know. Maybe it's my personal vision, but this suspension of something, this fact, the object is disappearing inside this density, white cone, and I see the penetration, something is generating something else, like sexuality is also in there, like the concept generate something is there, inside there, for me. And the change of the state is so violent, but organized and precise and geometric. Like there are a lot of phenomena that I study in the past, and I try to use. One of those is the sublimation, for example, when an object move from like a solid state to the gas state without passing through the liquid state, and is another amazing, attracting phenomenon that cannot be documented because the temperature to get to the sublimation is insanely high. So I like the idea of sublimation. I like the sublimation is also a word we use for other things, and we kind of absorb in the language. I guess probably for my impossibility to use one language in a specific and deep way only, working with in collaboration with people, because this is another important thing. All of the things I did till now, I did because somebody helped me. It's like I cannot do anything alone. It's like I really believe that is important to be together, to believe in the same things with different perspective, and that is the way I usually build things.
Would it be fair to say that in the process you're trying to humanize this knowledge, which in its abstractness is beyond human? Human language gives us this wall drawing, but the content is beyond ultimately human immediate experience. Is it that you generally try to humanize an encounter with our physical, the givens of our physical universe. In conjunction with that, why don't you give sort of modern letters? Why do the scholars write on farmyard letters or their beyond comprehension difficult theories on the formation of gold? Why these letters? Are you generally sort of bringing things down to human level, or not down, up to human level?
Yes, it's definitely a yes. So I guess, like the letter we have here, I found in my country just probably a week before the show. I was researching for weeks to find exactly this. That is coming from a memory when I was little. I remember people was using these letters to, like in the countryside, and happened to me to realize that these kind of letters are no longer available in most of countries, and they have the same age of the gold nugget. There's a connection with, they are from the 50 and the gold nugget is from the 50, and there is a invisible connection, personal connection with time. So I also think that it's fascinating for me to think that these phenomena were always there. Like, we are able now to document this. We start flying over the sound speed in the 50. Before was not possible. So but then if you check the meaning of sound barrier is barrier that is omnipresent and invisible. So what's omnipresent and invisible? Omnipresent because basically I'm speaking at the sound speed, so you're listening to me at the sound speed, and the barrier is everywhere, is surrounding us. So the only way to see it is actually get there, 1,267 kilometers per hour. There I can try to visualize the separation, but then this is not something connected with the technology that was there before. In the 50 and even 300 years ago, we had sound barriers. So I'm fascinated by the idea that most of the things I'm investigating, excavating through the technology was there before, and is bigger than a concept I want to reduce inside a specific time, inside of the contemporary time. Was always there. So it's like the human perspective. My perspective is speaking about my possibility, but also my grandfather's possibility, like our possibility that sometime was blind and is probably blind now. Probably something amazing is happening and we don't see it. And is always connect with perception, and perception is connect sometimes with emotion. So if one day I have a terrible headache, I cannot probably enjoy something amazing that I'm seeing because I can't. So there is like a limit that is our body and our the effort we do most of the time to be alive is contemporary happening with all of the rest of things. So miracles, vision, wars, romanticism, and like drama, all of it at the same time. So, and let's say again, thinking about them, two amazing young guys working on the walls, like this separation between the body of them moving around the space and what you don't see, what they are thinking, what they are visualizing in silence, in their brain, and the process that is taking form somewhere in the invisible space of the brain. I always think about that because when I look at art, what touched me the most is when in front of something there, solid or liquid or whatever form is taking, when I see it and I see it through the intelligence behind it, that doesn't have time, doesn't have a specific time, because it's going to resist to time. Like was more, oh, this piece is from the 53, but then is outside time, is like that amazing light that is behind ideas. That's what I like.
Are you interested in the languages used to communicate? Because you contrast with one another quite different languages here, also working towards opening up a horizon, an experiential horizon that allows us to understand our world and engage with it, even emotionally. So you have diagrams, you have calculations, you have photographic evidence, you have hearsay. After all, what we know about the gold nugget is hearsay, which is herewith admitted to court as one fact-finding strategy. All of these here work together to establish a grasp that we may develop ever more thorough, perhaps, as time goes on, our knowledge increases and our languages increase. Are you interested in the interrelation of these languages?
Definitely. And one of the reasons I'm interested in that is because, like, when I moved to New York City, that was not so much time ago, I didn't know any English, I never studied English. And I actually went there thinking, okay, I'm gonna do it. So in my life, languages were always like important.
Well, so I think, okay, in my experience, what was very, very enjoyable is, as a scientist, you're always focused on the goal. So these squared up bits of the equation, that's kind of the different stages, the different the goals we have, the moment where we can't freeze the process that we're going through, and that's going to be what we build the rest of the work on. So what was very interesting is actually the fact that, unlike my job, it wasn't just about the goal. The process was kind of part of the piece. It was the fact that we were thinking, the fact we were writing these 3 lines, which are just the way we get from that one important equation to that next important equation. I know in what I did, it was the way I go from the rules of gravity up until the way Mercury was orbiting. So it's those different stages and the process in between. And the fact that process is very interesting in its own right. And also very illuminating.
Sorry, what is that one as opposed to that one? What were the 2 different?
So
You're working on different things, no?
This all relates to Andrea's work on, which is kind of orbits, because it's the fact that it's kind of what you mentioned earlier, how general relativity, the fact that time and space interact, that's always been there, but we've never really been witnesses to it, just like something crossing the speed of sound, we've never seen it before. And actually, one of the main ways we've been a witness to general relativity is the planet Mercury, because the way it orbits the sun is a bit odd, and so we've had to develop newer ways of explaining that, and that was one of the main proof for Einstein's general relativity. And in that side of the world, what Florence did, it's the collapse of a star that goes into a supernova, and supernova form all the gold in the universe. So it's that balance between heat which forms an explosion, and then gravity which forms an implosion.
I guess because I'm Italian and because I absorb all of it, like naturally, I guess it's something I don't particularly care, but is traveling with me, is a thing that helped me in the US, for example, because the way I use images, drawing, performance is always connect with a certain amount of aestheticism, balance, geometry, elements that are present in the art history. Second question, connect with this, I guess, because the process to get there is complex, I do care about the final shape. I do care how the action have to be documented, and I visualize. I'm like kind of imagine which is the right way. I'm obsessed with that because you can use different media, but you can also produce different images of different action. So it's important to find the right one in the right media. So it's a yes, I care, and I guess is also there's a natural selection that happened during the process.
Yes.
supernova, dal momento in cui nasce, alle forze che producono l'implosione della supernova, che la fanno esplodere. E lui invece le orbite tutti quelli dell'università a vederlo, ed è stato molto affascinante. Questo caso del fare un dialogo tra quello che proseguono su questi brani, lei è molto bellissimo, stato l'anno dei suoi calcoli che venivano spesso per cui sta cambiando questo storico, cambia la affascinante perché una parte della volta che si vedono solo il padre. Come dicevo in questo video, per esempio a Verona per questo video, venerdì, siamo nella scelta di facoltà particolare, quando l'azione è molto particolare, segue il sole al momento del tramonto, segmento l'infinito e anche della difficoltà che abbiamo di costruire. Cioè se ci acceleriamo arriviamo a non percepire il passaggio, diciamo, di trasformazione delle cose, però per farlo dobbiamo conquistare una velocità incredibile con gli spazi, le vibrazioni della violenza di cui questa somiglia un po' a cercare di sopravvivere o di non invecchiare o di essere più forti degli altri, non sorridere sempre, di non esistere la notte. Io se ogni volta mi sveglio con una cosa, dopo lui lo sa, davanti anche degli anni, una cosa, sono ostinato. Questo qui è nato quando mia mamma l'ho fatto per 10 anni,